They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me.
Before we go any further, viewer discretion is strongly advised. What follows is meant only for education and entertainment. These are the exact courtroom statements from Day 5 of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. Day 5 took a hard and unexpected turn. Not because of what happened inside the court, but because of what broke online just minutes before the session started. Justin Bieber, who was once mentored by Diddy during his rise to worldwide fame, finally spoke up. What he said didn't just match Cassie's claims. It confirmed years of whispered stories, strange videos, and uncomfortable interviews the industry had long hidden. And when Diddy saw what Bieber posted, first on his phone, then on screens shown by reporters and passed around the courtroom, he lost control. The same man who once proudly said he helped Bieber's career cracked under the weight of being betrayed. Security had to step in. The courtroom fell completely silent. What followed wasn't just a meltdown. It was the start of the end. Back in 2009, Justin Bieber looked like the symbol of innocence. He was just 15, freshly out of Ontario, and had just signed with Scooter Braun and Usher. His first single, One Time, was climbing the charts, and overnight, he became a worldwide star. He was every kid's dream. Clean image, friendly smile, and already loved by millions. But behind the scenes, Bieber's rapid success was being shaped by people much older and much more experienced, working quietly in the background. One of those people was Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy didn't just meet Bieber, he took him in. He showed him the business, brought him to parties, and called himself Bieber's mentor. In one now famous clip, Diddy even joked in an interview that he had custody of Bieber for 48 hours. It was said as a joke, and people laughed, but it planted a weird feeling that didn't fully grow until years later. Videos from that time show Bieber wide-eyed and unsure, standing next to Diddy as cameras flashed. Diddy would often speak for him, make inappropriate jokes, and lead him through situations that, looking back, were too grown up, too early. One clip shows Bieber joking about girls, and Diddy responding, "My man." At the time, it felt playful.
Let's just go get some girls. Let's go get some girls.
Man after my heart, that's what.
Now, people see it much differently. Diddy wasn't just any celebrity. He was one of the most powerful names in music, and having his support gave Bieber access, connections, and protection. But it also made him vulnerable. He was now in a world filled with temptations, blurred rules, and unchecked power. In interviews, Bieber praised Diddy, calling him an inspiration, someone who believed in him before the rest of the world did. But what people didn't see were the things behind the compliments. The private talks, the nights not on camera, the times when a teenager was being shaped by a man whose life was far from kid-friendly. It looked like a great opportunity on the surface. But now we understand something deeper. Mentorship in showbiz often has strings attached. Sometimes those strings feel more like chains. Bieber's early connection to Diddy, once seen as a great thing, is now being looked at as something deeply troubling. As Justin Bieber's fame exploded in the early 2000s and 2010s, so did his entry into the adult world of entertainment, a world that was far too much for someone barely out of middle school. While Scooter Braun and Usher were publicly known for guiding his career, Diddy was the quiet force in the background, hosting, leading and introducing Bieber to exclusive circles where power and image meant everything. There were parties where Bieber stood next to Diddy, barely old enough to drive, surrounded by famous industry people twice his age. He appeared in private clubs, Hollywood events, and fancy red carpets, places that clearly weren't made for a teenager. But Diddy, with his charm and access, made it happen. This wasn't just about age, it was about access. Diddy could take Bieber anywhere, introduce him to anyone, and shape how people saw him. In return, Bieber was expected to smile, stay loyal, and follow the unspoken rules of this hidden side of fame. Behind the scenes, these mentorships didn't always feel like guidance. They felt more like control. People close to Bieber would later say he was often overwhelmed, pulled in all directions under intense pressure. While Diddy's help boosted Bieber's career, it also exposed him to the worst parts of the industry: fame, addiction, manipulation, and broken moral lines. The mental toll started to show quickly. Bieber's actions became unpredictable. He was arrested. He argued with paparazzi. He lost control. Looking back, none of this is shocking. Being 15, told you're a superstar, and handed a drink at one of Diddy's parties. That's not normal. That's risky. The entertainment world failed Bieber. It treated him like a grown man before he even had a chance to be one. Diddy was never accused of directly hurting Bieber, but the situations he placed him in were never meant for a child. And that kind of exposure leaves a mark. And then came the silence. Even when other young artists started to talk about toxic power in the industry, Bieber said nothing. He never called out Diddy. He didn't push back. Until day 5 of the trial. That's when the quiet label of mentor finally turned into something heavier. A public regret. The internet never forgets. And when Diddy's scandal made the news, social media did what it always does. It started digging. What they found was a video that had been ignored for years. It showed a young Bieber and Diddy laughing and smiling. On the surface, it looked harmless, a casual moment between a star and his rising student. But now, after the accusations, that same clip felt disturbing. In it, Diddy grins and says, "I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours he's with me." He pats Bieber's back. Bieber smiles uncomfortably and nods. At the time, it seemed like just another weird Diddy comment. Today, it looks like a warning sign no one noticed. The clip is short, less than a minute, but the feeling it gives now is hard to ignore. Diddy talks like he owns the moment. Bieber looks out of place. People laughed when it first aired. Now, those laughs feel cold. The video spread quickly across Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. Commenters pointed out how uneasy Bieber looked. Others couldn't believe no one questioned it back then. Context changes everything. In light of the sex trafficking accusations, old clips like this seem much darker. What once looked like celebrity, mentoring now feels like a clear show of power, shown off on live TV. People close to Bieber said watching that video come back online hit him hard. It brought back memories he had pushed away. It made him wonder if those uneasy feelings he had back then were real, and if he had just been too young and scared to speak out. That video made staying silent impossible. Bieber started writing a message, quietly and carefully. It wasn't just about Cassie anymore. It was about the man he once looked up to, and the painful truth that maybe that trust was never deserved. And when Bieber finally posted, everyone, including Diddy, saw it. By his mid-20s, Bieber had already lived through the highs, the crashes, and the slow climb back, something very few child stars survive. He was no longer the bright-eyed kid on red carpets. He had become a man, one who realized how deeply his past had shaped him. From 2014 to 2016, his life was filled with public meltdowns, vandalism charges, arrests, fights with paparazzi, and canceled shows. The pressure had exploded. In later interviews, Bieber admitted that fame nearly destroyed him. "I'd probably be dead if I kept going like that," he told Zane Lowe. His voice sounded calm. His eyes did not. But the change didn't come through music. It came through marriage. In 2018, Bieber married model Hailey Baldwin. This wasn't just love. It was a new beginning. Through Hailey and through his growing Christian faith, Bieber began to peel back the layers of trauma he'd built up over his teen years. He quit drugs. He went to therapy. And he started to talk, slowly and without naming names, about how people in the business had taken advantage of him when he was young. He never said Diddy's name, but the message was clear. People said they cared about me, but they turned their backs fast, Bieber said. He remembered being 15, surrounded by adults who saw him as a money-making machine, not a person. He slowly cut off old industry connections. No more clubs, no more late-night appearances. His music became deeper. Songs like Lonely and Ghost gave hints of emotional pain his fans could feel but not fully understand. Piece by piece, Bieber started to reclaim who he really was. Still, some ties stayed. In 2023, Bieber appeared on Diddy's Love album, on a track called Off the Grid. To the public, it looked like a full-circle moment, a reunion between mentor and student. But behind the scenes, insiders say Bieber regretted the project almost right away. People close to him said he didn't know the full extent of the charges against Diddy when he agreed to do it. When the lawsuits were filed and police raids started, Bieber went silent. He shut down, one person said. He was upset, hurt, and didn't know what to believe. That's why Day 5 hit so hard. Bieber had stayed quiet for years. He kept his distance. But that morning, right before court started, he finally broke his silence. And everything changed. At exactly 8:12 a.m. on Day 5, Justin Bieber posted a short message to his 270 million followers that flipped the energy. In the courtroom. It was just a few lines, paired with a black and white photo of him and Cassie at an old music event. But the caption hit like a knife. "Cassie, I see you. I remember what I saw. And I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner." Within minutes, it was everywhere. News sites reposted it. Fans filled the comments. Celebrities responded, some with silence, others with support, but inside the courtroom, the reaction was immediate. Diddy, who had walked in looking calm, had his phone taken by his lawyer after refreshing Instagram again and again. But it was too late. He had seen it, and his expression said everything. In the post, Bieber went even further. He described seeing Diddy grab Cassie's arm too hard at a 2015 after-party. He remembered how Diddy would cut Cassie off during interviews, answer her questions himself, and watch who she talked to. Bieber wrote that he always felt something was wrong, but he had been too young, too unsure, and too afraid to speak. There were times I asked myself, is this normal? He wrote, but I was just a kid too. I thought that's how the industry worked. He ended with a heartbreaking line. If I had said something sooner, maybe she wouldn't have felt so alone. Inside the courtroom, staff rushed to deal with the fallout. A legal assistant printed the post and gave it to the prosecution. The judge hadn't even entered the room when whispers started. One juror asked for water. A courtroom reporter ran to call their editor. Lawyers whispered with wide eyes, but it was already too late. Bieber's words did something no lawyer could. They brought in a voice from inside Diddy's world, someone famous, who now openly supported Cassie's story. Security shifted near Diddy's table. One guard stepped closer. The room felt electric. Something was about to happen. At first, Diddy didn't move, but his legs shook. He held the table tight. Prosecutors prepared to call Cassie back. Diddy's lawyer tried to distract him, handing notes, pointing at exhibits. Nothing worked. He had seen the post, and something inside him cracked. Witnesses say he started breathing harder. He ran a hand through his hair, loosened his tie, whispered to his lawyer. Then, without warning, he slammed the table. A glass tipped and shattered. The courtroom gasped. The judge hit her gavel. "Mr. Combs, control yourself," she said. But Diddy stood up. "You know this is all lies," he yelled, pointing at Cassie. "You know that's not what happened." Then he looked toward the screen. "And him?" he shouted. "After everything I did for him?" Security moved. His lawyer tried to calm him. Diddy shoved him off. A guard reached for his belt. The judge stood up. "Remove the jury!" She ordered. Cassie stayed still. As jurors left, Diddy kept shouting, "You're lying! Loyalty means nothing now!" Then he said the words that froze the room. "I'll make sure he never works in this town again. Neither of them will." He meant Bieber, and he said it, in court, in front of reporters. His lawyer dropped his head. The prosecutor stared. The judge looked cold. "Mr. Combs," she said, "you don't control this courtroom. One more outburst, and I'll have you removed and held in contempt." Guards stayed at his side from then on. One stood behind him, another at the door. Diddy didn't speak again, but he didn't have to, because the image he had worked decades to build, mogul, mentor, man in charge, collapsed that day.